This is Pretend Farmer Girl. You have some starter. Now what in the world do you do? How do you do this? So I'm going to show you. I do grams because the reason I do grams is because the climate can be all messed up. I watched videos where people would say, well, if you live in a wet climate, you need to add this much more water, and if you live in a dry climate or vice versa, you need to add, and that just gets confusing because I was doing all these recipes and it was messing up. So I use grams, I use the weight so that I always know exactly what I'm working with. So I'm going to give you an example. If I'm going to make just the bread tomorrow, and it calls for 150 grams of starter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some of this starter that is not active, and I'm going to put 50 grams of starter in here right now. So let's see. Whoop. Like I said in my other video, this is going to be made, the extra is what I'm using to make some crackers and focaccia and stuff. So that's about 50 grams of starter right there. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to add 100 grams of flour to the 50 grams of starter. Okay, and now I'm going to add, reset it, about 100 grams of water. Because basically you just want a little bit of starter that will work hard and grow and make that starter nice and strong. So that is what I have. So now I have about 250 grams of, I will have about 250 grams of active starter. But all I need is 150 grams. So what I'll do, so you can see the consistency, I don't know if you can see, it's pretty thick, like thick cake batter. Now for me, I like it really thick because I feel like, and I'm no scientist, but I feel like because the dough is really thick, the molecular stuff has to work so much harder to make the starter strong. So that's what I do. So now I've mixed it, and if this is like 7 a.m., I'm gonna cover it. Let me see. I have these cool covers, but I'm going to cover it and I'm going to leave it on the counter. And for my starter in this house, about 70 degrees, it's probably going to be about 7 or 8 hours until it's going to be active. And like I showed in another video, I want to show you the float test. So basically you take active starter, so you'll test this. You'll take a little bit out of it and go, I wonder if it's going to float. And if it floats, it's ready to go. So let's see. If you don't know about the float test, you just put some of this in the water, and if it floats, it's active and ready to go. And that's the easy, non-scientific way of checking. So this will be on the counter for about 8 hours, and you can leave it, or you can start the bread right then, which I'm going to show you next on the next video. So there are some people where this takes 3 hours. There's some people where it takes 10 hours. When I was watching videos, they said, leave it on the counter for 3 to 4 hours and it'll be ready. And then my bread was like a rock. So I've just learned, let your kitchen do its thing. Let it sit as long as it needs, because if you try to use it before it's ready, it's gonna fail. You have a question, ma'am?
What if it's been 3 days and it's still failing the float test?
Well, if it's been 3 days and it's still failing the float test, there's a couple of things that you could possibly be doing. If I was going to make a lot of bread and I have this huge amount of starter right there that's not active, and let's say I was like, well, I just want to put a little bit of flour in there to mix it up and then it will work. That doesn't work. You have to start with a small amount of starter and then you add the large. So basically, let's say after the first day, you didn't get the float test. You take most of this out, except for the little bit that you're gonna keep, you know, like the 50 grams. You put it in another bowl. You put the rest of this to your discard and use it for something else. And you start the process over again, because that means that your starter is not strong enough. So you take that little bit of starter and you start over. The starter, 100 grams of water, 100 grams of flour, and let it sit and see how it goes. If you still have a problem the next day, same thing. Dump out all but like 50 grams to discard, don't throw it out, and 100 grams of water, 100 grams of flour. Does that answer your question, ma'am? My assistant, my beautiful daughter. Anyway, that's it for now. If you have any questions, I'll put the process in the comments or in the description. If you have any questions, ask me and I'll be happy to help you, because I want you to be able to start making bread tomorrow, or maybe the next day, because your starter has to get going. This is Pretend Farmer Girl signing out.